Hey guys, welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show where we give you all the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Leading off the show today is Jon Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, coming to you from right here at the Collider Video Studios here in Burbank, California, and we are so glad you decided to make us part of your day.
Also here is Jon Schnepp.
All these goofballs came back from that sweaty land called Florida. I've been here rocking it. What's up? Coca-Cola, baby. Don't charge for those autographs. Hell yeah, you got to charge. Pay that money.
Also here is Perri Nemiroff.
Yeah, still wearing that slightly sweaty t-shirt that I was wearing in Orlando, but I love it, so it's okay.
Also here is Kristian Harloff.
I'm about to jinx everyone. No one here has the con flu yet.
Also known as Con Crud. You know, last night, there's something pretty cool. We went to go see the newest installment of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Watch for our review that will drop early Monday morning. That's when the review will go up. But as a part of that experience, Marvel invited about 30 of us to go to an open house. They've kind of done some renovating of their offices that are on the Disney lot. And we went, and to a lot of our surprise, I don't know, maybe you were smart enough and you knew what was happening, but like directors, like Thor director Waititi was there to guide us around. Ant-Man and Ant-Man 2 director Peyton Reed was there. Marvel president Kevin Feige was there. And some of the producers were there. And they were walking us around Marvel Studios. They showed us some Black Panther footage. They showed us
a lot of stills, a lot of cool
and
stills.
A lot of
from
cool
movies,
art.
yeah.
They took us into the artists' offices.
Yeah.
Showed us like some concept stuff from Captain Marvel. They showed us some Spider-Man 2 visual effects stuff. Yeah. They showed us some Thor Ragnarok stuff. Introduced us to some new characters. It was a really great experience just bringing it home. And then we got to top off the evening by going in to watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Now, there is an embargo on the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 review until Monday morning, but our review for that will go up at that time. Now, speaking of Guardians of the Galaxy, what's our first story, Ashley?
Taking to Facebook yesterday, writer-director James Gunn will return for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as both writer and director. The news comes as Gunn prepares to kick off the U.S. press junket for the highly anticipated sequel and wanted to get out in front of the inevitable questions about his return for a third installment. Speaking about his decision, Gunn said, "I needed to know it was in my heart what I truly felt called to do. There is a history in Hollywood of haphazard endings to trilogies, and I didn't want to become a part of that dishonorable tradition of pretending the third one doesn't exist. I couldn't do it for the money, and I couldn't do it because it was what other people wanted me to do. I needed to do it because it was what I needed to do. I have never made choices in my career based on anything other than passion and love for the stories and characters, and I didn't want to start now. So yes, I'm returning to write and direct Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Jon, are you happy to hear James Gunn is returning for Volume 3, or would you have liked to see a new director take the reins?"
Okay, so I love the comments that he made. I love his rationale, and I am a huge James Gunn fan. Where you talk about Super, you're talking about Slither, you're talking about the amazing first Guardians of the Galaxy. I am a massive fan of James Gunn, and I do not feel comfortable with this decision. Not because I don't think James Gunn is good enough to do that. No, that's just stupid. But if you've watched me for any period of time, you know I do get a little bit nervous when directors who are really creative forces, and I find James Gunn to be a creative force. He's so creative. When you look at his library of films that he's done, they're also like wacky and creative and different, and I love that. I get a little bit nervous when you get a guy who's a creative force like James Gunn, and he just lives in one neighborhood for too long. Even if it's not something as cool as Guardians of the Galaxy. Because him doing another Guardians of the Galaxy film, that also means it's going to be a number of years before we get the next Slither. I don't mean Slither 2, but I mean the next, like, crazy thing out of James Gunn's mind. Now we got to wait even longer. And I just think when you get guys who are that kind of creative, I think when they stay on one property too long, I think it starts to sap their creativity a bit. We've seen it happen before. And I personally would have liked to have heard about James Gunn moving on to direct some other stuff that I could look forward to, and then getting in some fresh blood to do Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Look, James is a great director. I'm sure he'll do a great job with Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm not huge on this news because I'd like to see him do something else because I love new original James Gunn films so much. I don't know, Schnepp, you heard about this news. How does it hit you?
Well, I think he's doing what he wants to do.
Which is important.
And I feel like if he feels that he has a way to end the trilogy the right way, then I would rather see him do it than someone else.
Right.
Especially if it's ending. You know, they're doing 3. It would be different if they're like, oh, he did these 2. Then they're going to start off with a brand new kind of Guardians of the Galaxy idea, and another director is going to come on and take that on. So, you know, those kind of possibilities are always going to be there. Plus, spin-off ideas from Guardians of the Galaxy. A brand new director could come on and take on, you know, any number of characters from the new movie or Groot or any of those kinds of things and do a spin-off, and it wouldn't have to be James Gunn. So having just seen the second film, I think I would like to see him finish the trilogy. That's how I feel.
What do you think, Perry?
Yeah, I'm happy that he's making this decision. I totally hear what you're saying about him making another original film because, yeah, he's an insanely creative guy, and he should continue to make original movies. Guardians of the Galaxy needs him, though, and based on everything I've ever heard him say since he started working on this franchise, it seems like he needs that property, too, just in terms of he really does love it. He's sent out like so many quotes to so many different outlets on Facebook about how much he loves these characters, and I believe it, and I really think you can feel it in both movies, and the only way I think this series, this part of the MCU can end strong is with James Gunn at the helm. These aren't characters that can go into someone else's hands and feel like they connect well with 1 and 2. It needs to be him that does it. And, you know, on that set, they feel like a family. And even though there's so many instances where I think some other director can step in and take over a franchise and do it well, in this case, I really do believe that it's best for the series, and I think it does serve him well to stick with it.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, you hear these comments, and I think that you should take a breath of fresh air when you hear. I mean, this is a great thing to hear from a director to say this. The fact that he was sitting back to listen to himself, basically say, this is what I need to do in order to do this. I want to be passionate about it. I want to go into it. I want to really want to do this. And so, yeah, I'm doing a third one because, like you said, Perry, he's become synonymous with Guardians. I mean, he really has. I mean, you think of Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's one of those movies that you think the same way that you thought Nolan, Dark Knight, and whether or not you think they're at the same level, that's a different conversation. But as far as the property itself, when you had the Dark Knight and Batman, how that was Nolan, that's what he's starting to become with Guardians, because he does bring his particular type of humor and the things that he does know, whether you like it or don't like it. It's certainly become his thing, and if he thinks that he wants to do a third one, I also agree with you that I want to see him do smaller films. But I think by him doing a trilogy of this magnitude, and the second one's going to crush financially, and the third one will too, he'll be able to do tons of those for as long as he wants to do it. He's being able to build his status by doing these movies, and as long as the fans, as rabid as the comic book movie audience is, and as long as they are embracing him, and as long as he has that kind of clout. Now it's risky because if 2 doesn't pay off in the way that Marvel hopes it does, and he hopes it does, and then 3 doesn't, then and you're putting yourself out there a little bit. But I think that he's actually building up his legacy by doing this thing, and it's a smart move on his part.
No one's stopping him from writing, too.
Right.
I mean, look at what he did with Belko Experiment.
Well, he's going to be writing Guardians of the Galaxy 3 as well. One of the things that you said, though, that makes me a little bit nervous is if you want to compare the situation to that of Joss Whedon, and there are differences, absolutely, but you know, I was saying the exact same thing about Joss Whedon. Like, he does a couple of these Avenger films, and he can write his own take and do whatever he wants. And what eventually happened, it just exhausted him and wrecked him. Yeah. And we haven't seen anything from Joss Whedon since. So like I said, my apprehension to him doing Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has nothing to do with not thinking he could do a capable job. It's more that I like franchises getting some new blood put in, and I love James Gunn's work so much. I just want to see him do some more original stuff. But maybe it's just a matter of being a little bit patient. All right, what's next?
At this past weekend Star Wars celebration, several actors from the Star Wars movies took to the stage to celebrate 40 years of Star Wars. They included notables like Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill, as well as returning new characters like Daisy Ridley and John Boyega. Even actors from the prequel era who couldn't be there in attendance sent in a videotaped greeting, which included Qui-Gon Jinn's Liam Neeson and Mace Windu Samuel L. Jackson. But one actor noticeably absent was none other than Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, Ewan McGregor. McGregor is often rumored to be pushing for a standalone Obi-Wan movie himself, with fans also hoping he would return, a premise that gained steam when he returned to voice Obi-Wan in Rey's Force Vision in The Force Awakens. So why didn't he film a greeting to send in? Why didn't he show up for the 40th anniversary? John, what do you think the reasons are as to why Ewan McGregor didn't show up at Star Wars Celebration?
To me, this was the question of Star Wars Celebration this year. It was an amazing event. It was great and it was wonderful. But I'm telling you, the absence of Ewan McGregor stands out like a sore thumb, because here at the 40th anniversary, you are bringing out guys like Hayden Christensen, his first time back really in the Star Wars family. It was really cool to see that good Canadian kid get that warm reaction from the audience that he did, right? And all this kind of stuff. And something not everybody could be there. Liam Neeson, who was in one film, if you don't count his voice in the second, he sends in a video message. You know, you got Mace Windu himself, Samuel L. Jackson, who's doesn't have that much screen time in these films, but he's in one. No major actor had as much screen time in that prequel trilogy than Ewan McGregor. He was the heart and soul of that first trilogy, right? And he's not there, and he doesn't even send in a recorded message. We know it's not like, oh, him and Lucasfilm must be like. He loves Lucasfilm. He wants to do more Star Wars movies. So to me, that's why after the first panel,
And his uncle was there.
and who did have problems with Lucasfilm, like Dennis Lawson was there too. So that's why there were some people like me who were like, when he wasn't there at the 40th anniversary, I was like, I am more convinced than ever. If he's not showing up on this first panel, he's going to show up on Saturday or Sunday, and they're going to announce an Obi-Wan movie, because it's just ridiculous that he not be there. And yet he didn't. And so that is the big floating, like, even if you want to announce an Obi-Wan movie at D23, why not be there? I mean, Hayden came out. I mean, I don't know. How did you see that whole thing? And what do you think the reasons are that Ewan McGregor was not there, not even mentioned?
I think we're all, not just people at this table, I think that everybody is overthinking this thing just a little bit. I think that one of the main things with Ewan McGregor not being there is I think that they probably don't have anything to announce right now with him. I think that, yeah, he probably could have sent in a message, or he probably maybe could have been there. They could have explained why he wasn't there. But I don't think it necessarily means, well, that's because they're saving this for D23 and he's going to have an announcement, an Obi-Wan movie. That certainly could happen. But I don't think that that's the reason why. I think that maybe he wasn't available. And a lot of times, look, there are also things that do. They have limited budget also. I think certain people that they spend in, they fly in. I bet you Harrison Ford wasn't cheap to get out there, too. There are other things. And not that they couldn't have forked over an extra couple bucks to get Ewan McGregor out there, but maybe they're going to save him for another convention. Maybe they're going to bring him in for something else that they want to down the line bring him in, and maybe he just simply wasn't available to be there, and they didn't have any. They said, okay, we're going to have Liam Neeson said he can send something in. Sam Jackson's going to send something in. Do we need Ewan to do it? Or the question's going to be out there about the Obi-Wan? That's the reason why I don't think he was there live in person, is because they didn't have anything for him to talk about, and everyone would have been asking him about the Obi-Wan movie. So they wanted to scale back on it. They also wanted to put a lot of focus on Hayden Christensen. I think that the fact that Hayden Christensen hadn't been there in 12 years or whatever it was, too, he did get he got a great standing ovation where we were. They also interviewed him on the Star Wars show on the main stage. He got a lot of love there. It was nice to see fans kind of embrace him again, and there's a whole thing that we're going to talk about on Jedi Council with how the prequels were this thing, like you used to say, there's the family member that just came into town and you didn't want to see him, but you knew they were there. They were still
the unemployed
family.
uncle that still lives in your grandmother's basement.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I think that uncle is starting to get a little more table time now, and they're starting to give a couple more scraps. And I think that Star Wars fans in general are starting to accept, because even Star Wars is even pushing the prequels as part of the overall family. They weren't doing that 2 years ago at Star Wars Celebration. I think Ewan McGregor is one of these guys that is going to be honored a lot more at upcoming events.
What do you think, Schnepp?
Well, no one's mentioned Han Solo. You guys didn't see any footage of Han
I
Solo.
know,
D23
but
is
he
coming.
was there.
But
Harrison Ford was there. I mean,
No.
the question
I'm
is,
talking,
why
about,
wasn't Ewan
I'm talking
there?
about the new Han Solo.
Right, yeah.
He wasn't there. I think Ewan McGregor is going to show up in the new Han Solo movie.
Really?
And really.
Why?
Well, I mean, why not? It takes place before Obi-Wan dies.
They never met before.
They've
though.
never met.
Well, they don't have to necessarily meet, but Han Solo is aware of that hocus pocus that you believe in, kids. I'm sure he's seen a lightsaber before, Han Solo.
Because that's not so far off another theory we've heard, and you and I have talked about that. They may not be wanting to roll out Ewan McGregor because maybe he actually appears in Episode 8, and they don't want to give any
I think
hints.
that
So
that's kind of what's happening with Episode 8. I would say Episode 8 more so than Han Solo.
If he shows up in episode, I mean, we kind of already are guessing that Hayden is going to show up in episode 8. I mean, I don't know how many Force ghosts are going to have a big party or something. I don't really want to see that. I would much rather see an Obi-Wan movie. But if I don't get an Obi-Wan movie or an announcement, you got D23. How long is this 40th anniversary going on? Did it end or is it still going on?
Well, I guess it lasts all year.
Right.
Yeah.
So it lasts all year. So D23 is also the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. So they got to save something. You're going to get that flavor for Han Solo, and they're going to announce that Obi-Wan thing. That's my guess.
What do you think, Perry?
I keep wanting to say to myself, just calm down, don't read too much into what goes on at conventions. And you make some really good points why it might mean nothing at all. But at the same time, I'm with you. This sticks out like a sore thumb to me. I find it very silly that they would have things like a video from Liam Neeson and Sam Jackson. And even if they...
with no production value.
Yeah.
Sam Jackson was literally just as like his
With a
iPhone
phone.
4 going,
It's-
hey, everybody. Hi. And that was basically
And no one
it.
even shot it for him, at least. And one of them, you see him go to push the stop button. So they easily could have asked Ewan McGregor to be like, hey, man, just like a quick video for the fans. They didn't do that, and it feels very strange to me. I definitely think that we're going to see more Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan in something in the very near future.
I think we're going to find out there was a reason for it. When, I don't know. And then I think we're going to all then go, oh, that was a pretty damn good reason.
I think the Episode 8 reasoning is probably the best. If you're going to speculate on any of it, I think the Episode 8 potential cameo is a good call.
They're secretly shooting the Obi-Wan movie right now. It's Newsia.
MTV did an interview with Kathleen Kennedy, and they brought up a potential Obi-Wan movie. And while she didn't confirm it, she didn't exactly shoot it down. And she said that they're kind of working on the creating process right now with the next standalone film. And she said she hopes it'll be around the summer that they start the process of creating the film and revealing it to the public.
That's
so
July.
summer.
That's D23.
I know.
Lots of possibilities out there. All right, guys, listen, new films opening up in theaters every week. We like to spend a little bit of time talking about them. There's a bunch of them opening this week. Today we're going to talk about 2. Ashley, which ones are those?
First up is Free Fire. Justine Brie Larson brokers a meeting in a deserted warehouse between 2 Irishmen and a gang led by Vernon Charlton Copley and Ord Army Hammer, who intend to sell them a stash of guns. But when shots are fired during the handover, complete pandemonium ensues, with everyone at the scene suddenly thrust into a heart-stopping game of survival. Also coming out is Phoenix Forgotten. On March 13th, 1997, several mysterious lights appeared over Phoenix. 3 teens went into the desert shortly after the incident, hoping to document the strange events occurring in their town. They disappeared that night and were never seen again. Now, on the 20th anniversary
like
of
my
their
Tinder date.
Disappearance,
Clean your
unseen
face.
footage has finally been discovered.
Maxima.
I'm laughing because I remembered Schnepp falling asleep during the reading of the date. He was like, March 13th, 1997.
But it looks great.
But it looks fantastic.
Good Noxema commercial. What
Yeah,
is going on?
Clean your face.
First of all, I
Scrub
think
it.
this is like the 3rd found footage movie based on the Phoenix Lights incident. And like Schnepp was pointing out to us, they're like, there's one on Netflix right now, found footage Phoenix Lights incident. This trailer didn't do this film any favors whatsoever. It's like, I have no desire to see this film. And who knows, maybe we'll watch it sometime and go, wow, that was better than I thought. But it looks like totally throwaway. Free Fire, to me, totally different story. I've been bonkers excited to see this movie. It's got a shoot 'em up kind of feel, a little bit of a Snatch feel to it. I'm sure on a smaller scale. Terrific looking cast. Trailers have been great. It feels like it's just bonkers and kind of done in an indie film style. This is one I'm really looking forward to. Kristian, which one of these stand out to you?
Free Fire, for sure. The cast alone, but I think that as we get closer to May and the big blockbusters and everything too, I like when you hit these little smaller films with this kind of the crime background to it. I think that Free Fire is a movie similar, even though Nice Guys came out in mid-July. I wish that Nice Guys would have come out in like April around the same time. It's that type of movie. I know this obviously Shane Black, different bit of tone, but that's the kind of movie that I want to see right before the big popcorn movies. No one needs to see Phoenix Forgotten. It needs to be forgotten. The trailer looks so stupid. And if I see the movie and I feel bad about it, I'll come back and say it. But I just watching that trailer, all I do is say just please stop this. Just for everyone, just stop this.
What about you, Perri? Which one of these stand out to you?
I'm probably going to give Phoenix Forgotten a shot. Not before Free Fire, though. Free Fire is top priority, and there's no doubt in my mind that I'm going to see that movie this weekend, and I'm probably going to love it. Between that cast, the director, it's an A24 movie. It looks like a blast. I'm kind of curious about Phoenix Forgotten, not because I'm curious because I think
You're
it's
a glutton
good.
for punishment.
Well, I mean, I kind of do want those filmmakers to prove us wrong and be like, oh,
Yeah.
look at this like little found footage hidden gem that you guys didn't see coming. It would be cool. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. But I can't control myself, and I'll probably see it anyway.
It's a prequel to Chronicle. Schnepp, what do you think? Which one are you looking forward to?
Phoenix Forgotten, wash your face. Scrub it up. Scrub that down. Shake a cam. Get out of here. No, Free Fire. I cannot wait for Free Fire. Ever since I saw the trailer, I love Ben Wheatley's films. I love everything he's done since Kill List. I'm a giant fan. I think this feels to me like Reservoir Dogs meets supreme violence. It's all going to take place in one. I'm not expecting them to I don't care if they never get out of that room. I don't even need to see an outside sequence. I would love for the entire movie to all take place in that one room that we see them all arguing and fighting and shooting in. That sounds so fun to me. I don't need a big, like I said, Free Fire. That's all I got to say.
All right, guys, we reached that part of the show now for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Ashley's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down. Then those of us at the table are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Ashley, what do we got?
Game of Thrones actor Michael McElhatton has confirmed to Red Carpet News that he has a role in director Zack Snyder's upcoming Justice League. McElhatton is best known for his role as Bruce Bolton on HBO's epic fantasy series and joins fellow Game of Thrones actor Ciarán Hinds, who plays the villain Steppenwolf. Speaking to Red Carpet News, McElhatton wouldn't reveal who he's playing in Justice League, but he did promise an epic opening sequence, saying, "There's probably going to be a lot more humor in Justice League. I think would probably be the main difference from the previous one, Batman vs. Superman. I found the scene I did, which is kind of a big opening scene, was pretty dark actually in its tone, but in a good way. It was comic booky, but I think you can thread a certain amount of humor through it." Schnepp, buy or sell Michael McElhatton and his comments in Justice League.
I like the way you say. How do you say that name again?
Michael McElhatton.
Michael McElhatton.
Michael McElhatton.
McElhatton. Michael McElhatton. Well, I'm gonna buy what he's saying. I think the dark tone that he's talking about. A lot of us have seen those early trailers where they show kind of like King Arthur burying a mother box or whatever. It's like, I don't know who he's going to play. They showed a giant kind of battle scene. We don't know what that is. But my guess is that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the movie. They throw out like 3 mother boxes. Earth has one. Cyborg, it's in Cyborg is a mother box. And then there's like one in Atlantis or, whatever. There's 3 mother boxes buried on Earth. That's kind of going to be the setup for the rest of the Justice League. Why he's talking about there's a lot of humor in it, but it's really dark in the beginning. Probably a lot of people die in slow motion. So,
In funny ways.
In funny ways, yeah.
What do you think, Perri?
I think this is probably the opening credits of the movie. That's what I've been guessing ever since someone broke down what that beginning is going to be, kind of like what we got in BVS, where it is like slow-mo killing and that kind of stuff. I think I'm going to sell the comments, though, just because it's so contradictory. I don't really see how he's like, oh, it's like humor and it's comic booky and it's dark. It just seems like, not that he doesn't know what he's talking about, but that he doesn't quite know how to articulate exactly what it is. That's the only reason I'm going to sell it. I'm actually really looking forward to this opening sequence and how it's going to set up everything that we're going to see in the film.
Yeah, the comments are odd. Hey, it's funny, but it's serious. It's light, but it's dark. It's like, what?
I wish he said it exactly like that.
That's kind of how he said it. Look, I think this, and look, the dude is from Game of Thrones, and everybody in Game of Thrones dies. I expect this guy to die in the opening scene, probably. That's what it sounds like a little bit. But look, I think beyond the comments, okay, I think one of the things that Justice League has done, from what we've seen so far in that great crash course you did, Schnepp, on understanding Justice League, is that I think they're going to set up a true, proper mythology with the mother boxes. And it sounds like, this is the one really good thing I take away from these comments. It sounds like they're not going to waste any time. It sounds like right from the opening scene, they're going to start to establish this whole thing. They're going to start to establish this whole mythology. They're going to start to establish everything that's going on here in Justice League. My one fear about it is that, like I've always said, I do not think, and I like Batman v Superman and stuff like that. I agree that there were problems with it, but I do not think one of the problems was its tone. I think its tone was perfectly good. And I'm a little bit afraid that Warner Brothers is hearing these people who I think are misplacing what they think the problem with Batman vs. Superman is, going, oh, it's too dark, it's too dark. And Warner Brothers might be taking one of the things that I thought really worked for Batman Superman, which was its tone, and backpedaling a little bit and saying, oh, don't worry, guys, there's going to be more humor. That is the one thing I keep getting a little bit nervous of. But overall, they're setting up a good mythology. Sounds like they're going to do it right away. I think it's encouraging, even if I think his comment was a little mixed signaled. You know what I mean? So I don't know. What do you think about it?
As far as your comments goes with the tone, I think you can still shift up the tone a little bit and make it more fun and keep a lot of the same tone. I think that was, and I'm with you that I think we're one of, like, the two people here that enjoyed Batman v Superman more than most. But I do think it could have served to be a little bit more fun, and I think that's because when I saw the tone of the Justice League from the trailers, it does look like it's
very different.
But it seems, it's funny because a lot of it does seem the same, and a lot of it seems like they're going more with a little bit more of the joke. And I don't mind when you go for the joke as long as it serves the story. Sometimes you'll just go joke, and it doesn't. And it's just like, now we're just doing a comedy show, and that doesn't seem like what's going to be happening with Justice League. And I think that by hearing his comments, I do agree that he's probably going to crap out within the first 5-10 minutes in the movie. But I think that it's a matter of setting up, saying, no, this serves the story, at least what I read from the comments. This serves the story. There's going to be some serious dark tones here, but they're also going to be able to infuse some like real humor to where it's like, I feel like, okay, that's what a character could say. There is that you can get some funny tones out of serious things in life, and I like when that happens in movies. It's just when it starts to feel like a stand-up show or a sketch show in the middle of a comic book movie is when I go,
All right, what's next?
We're going into buy or sell, I think. Oh, we're already there. Oh, yeah, okay. Variety is reporting that. Blooper! Right. Variety is reporting that Matrix and Lord of the Rings star Hugo Weaving has reunited with his director Peter Jackson in Mortal Engines. With new fantasy adaptation, Jackson is writing and producing. Weaving joins already cast Hera Hilmar, Robbie Sheehan, Ronan Rafferty, and Stephen Lang, with Christian Rivers directing. Based on the book of the same name, the story is set thousands of years in the future, where Earth cities are on huge wheels, devouring each other in a struggle over Earth's resources. Production is slated to begin in New Zealand this spring, with the film set to bow on December 14, 2018. Christian, buy or sell Hugo Weaving in Mortal Engines?
Oh, I buy it. I mean, this is, Hugo Weaving in anything. Hugo Weaving doing a Vegas casino commercial. I buy it. But this one, the reason I buy it the most is to see them reteam, hearing what it's going to be, seeing Peter Jackson do this type of movie. Yeah, I'm definitely buying this. My ears perk up every time we get this kind of new sci-fi kind of adventures, and putting this type of cast. Like you say, John, never hurts to add talent.
Yeah, I think this sounds great. I buy this. First of all, the concept sounds way far out there, which is great. In the hands of a director like Peter Jackson, and adding him and Hugo Weaving together again, it's fabulous. I buy it.
I'm definitely buying this. This is one of those books that has been in my iPad queue for way too long, so maybe now's about the time to read it. Hugo Weaving in anything, I will take it. And this director sounds really interesting to me too. Christian Rivers, who's worked with Peter Jackson for quite a while, and he just has a very diverse background of stuff that I don't think most of the times I feel like if someone has a VFX background, it's just VFX, and then he jumps into a big property like this, kind of like I think it was Snow White and the Huntsman. I think Rupert Sanders. Did he have a VFX background? That might be wrong. Maybe don't listen to that. But this guy has a very interesting background that could make this a cool movie, a cool feature for him. But this is a very big book series. I'm curious to see how they develop it. And I think it's about time for us to get another young adult book-to-film adaptation that is actually good. And they've got this one slotted right now for a tentative December 2018 release date. So that sounds like they've got a lot of confidence in this property.
Schnepp.
Well, I like that they've got Stephen Lang cast. I
Yeah,
wonder if
that's
he's
great
going to
too.
be the good guy and Hugo Weaving's going to be the bad guy. I love the concept of this. I just started thinking about it, and I remember thinking, like, when I was in Salt Lake City, they've got these really kind of cool sculptures, and I was like, wow, those look like cities on wheels. And then I'm reading about this, and they were just, imagine it's like a city, but as a car, like driving along with another city car, like, we've got to get to the water, whatever. It sounds crazy. I just imagining Peter Jackson, kind of like the big visuals that he's coming up with for this. It sounds exciting, so I'm going to buy it.
All right, guys, we've reached that part of the show now for buy or sell. Ashley, what's next?
Well, after years of stops and starts with different filmmakers and actors, Warner Brothers is finally rolling on a remake of A Star is Born. Filming has now officially begun with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, aka Stephanie Germanato, her real name. To mark the occasion, the production has released its first image from the movie. Cooper makes his directorial debut while also acting in the movie as Jackson Maine, a country music star who discovers a talented unknown named Allie, played by Germanato. As the two begin a passionate love affair, Jack coaxes Allie into the spotlight, catapulting her to stardom. A Star is Born is set to hit theaters on September 28, 2018. Perri, buy or sell the first look at Bradley Cooper's A Star is Born.
I'll buy it. I mean, this image is nothing mind-blowing, but I'm very intrigued by this whole production that they're putting together, and not because I think we need another Star is Born movie, but because of these two. This is a big deal for both of them. Bradley Cooper, it's his feature directorial debut. That's huge. And Lady Gaga, this is the first time she's going to be credited under her real name, and that to me says, she's going to make a push to really make herself a legitimate talent in this industry. And had I not watched American Horror Story, I would kind of, just be brushing that off and say, good luck to you. We'll see it when it happens. But, when she first appeared on American Horror Story Hotel, I'm like, oh, it's Lady Gaga doing her thing with crazy costumes. And she's this really evil, crazy character. But eventually throughout Hotel, she turned her into what felt like a real person, and she had a number of scenes that were, pretty exceptional just because of what she did in that role. So I actually have a lot of faith in her as an actress right now, and this is just a huge deal for the two of them. And if they pull this off, it's going to be great.
I'll tell you what, I echo a lot of those sentiments, because the thing with Lady Gaga, when she first, she's a talented singer. You can't take that away from her. But like when she first hit the scene and she's running around with the meat slabs on her face, whatever she's doing, and it's like, when she's doing that dumb stuff, I'm like, that's all shtick. And then she's ripping off Madonna's songs, and I'm like, she's just gonna fade out really quick. And then the Oscars happened a couple of years ago where she sang what the
Sound of Music,
and everybody in the room did the same thing. We're at your place. Everybody did the same thing when she came out. They're on, oh my God, Lady Gaga's doing Sound of Music. And then everyone just shut up. And everybody was tuned in and locked in. And what that said doesn't necessarily say, oh, well, that means she's going to be a great actress. What it means is that when she is locked into a particular thing, and it wasn't over the top, it was committed, she is a very, very talented individual. From everything she's done. And she's also toned it down from the meat slabs and everything, too. She's actually just been embracing herself, like during her, I think, Super Bowl, was it? Where was she? I can't remember the last. And she's performing as herself. She's starting to do things. She's changing her image up a bit. I'm telling you, I think we're going to see something really special out of her in this. And Bradley Cooper, obviously, is always really good. But Bradley Cooper also shines, like any other great actor, when the performance that he's given next to is enhanced, he enhances. So I think this could be something pretty good.
Well, look, there's also something here, an advantage for Lady Gaga here is that this is essentially a musical.
Right.
So that plays her strength as well. But I remember that story we talked about a while ago. One of the things that I respect about this, because I'm always big, like super negative on music star. Now, granted, they haven't been doing this a lot in the last 5 or 6 years, but there was a big trend in the early 2000s of taking big music stars and throwing them in movies,
Eminem.
right? And I hated that. But like we saw that story that a number of years ago, Gaga decided she wanted to try stuff on screen. And she started working her ass off, working with all the top guys in Hollywood, all the top trainers, the top instructors, and she kept herself quiet in the background, just training for years. Then started taking small things, a little thing on American Horror Story. And this will be a relatively small film. Now, remember, there's a history to this film. Clint Eastwood was supposed to direct this, like all the way back in 2011. It's supposed to be Clint Eastwood with Beyonce in the lead. They could never get a lead guy to commit. And then Beyonce gets pregnant. Eventually, Clint Eastwood moved away from it and all that kind of stuff. And now it's happening. So it's going to be a smaller project. That's a musical. It's right in Gaga's wheelhouse. So while this is stereotypically something I wouldn't be for, the circumstances actually, you know what? If Gaga's going to try this, these are the right steps and the right way for her to do it. So I got to say I buy it. What do you think?
I already said I bought it.
Oh, sorry, Schnepp.
It's okay.
Well, I was hanging out at my friend John Peters' house just last week, and he was talking about, like, the last time I've talked with him many times about A Star is Born. He's been trying to get that going. He's been getting back into the producer's game, and he's been excited about having Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga for years now, to know that they just went off just this weekend to Coachella to shoot a big chunk of this movie is pretty exciting. And now to see a picture of Bradley Cooper basically looking like Chris Christopherson, it's Peter's, remake of the movie he made in 1976, but they really are pushing Lady Gaga, or what's her last name? Germanata? Is that how you say her last name?
Yes, Germanata.
Yeah, I think she's going to be, it's literally A Star is Reborn. I feel like when you see this movie, you're going to see her in a brand new light, and that's kind of what I think they're really angling for. So I'm really excited to see this new version.
All right, guys, listen, I want to remind you that this is not the only show on Collider Video today. A little bit later today, a brand new live episode of Heroes comes on with Jon Schnepp, of course. Also, a little bit later today, a brand new movie trivia schmodown. It's a team match, ETC versus the Wolves of Steel. That drops a little bit later today. Keep your eyes open, as well as the semifinals of the March Movie Madness Villains Tournament happens today. Keep your eyes open for that as well. And of course, every Friday, brand new episodes of Awesome-tacular with Jeremy Johns. All right, guys, at the end of this show, we're going to save a little bit of time to take some of your live Twitter questions. If you're watching this live right now, make sure you're following us on Twitter at Collider Video, and you can start sending in those questions now. Wendy will pick a couple out, but before we get to that, it's time for the mailbag. So, Ashley, what's in the mailbag today?
Ninja Transformers writes, what do you guys hope to see in the future with the John Wick franchise? Do you see more sequels, or could they even create a shared universe somehow? Thanks for taking my question, and have a great day.
Well, we've speculated ever since we saw the first John Wick, like with the amazing mythology of the Continental. There were doors there that you could do. Like I said, I could totally see a prequel, and I don't usually like prequels, but just a whole movie on the Continental. And just talking about that hotel, that world, the rules that govern it, and all that kind of stuff, because I was fascinated by it. John Wick 2 only increased my hunger to see something like that. But we also got more characters. We saw a little bit more of that world, like Common. Like, obviously, Common and John Wick's character, they have a background, stuff like that. You could do something there. I don't know that this franchise is big enough to support a shared universe, per se. Like, I'm super thrilled with how the first one and the second one did, but those are great for almost like indie film kind of stuff. These are not blockbuster numbers. So I don't know you could support it. I think it probably stays with John Wick. So I probably think we get a John Wick 3, but I think it stays within that world. Unless John Wick 3 comes out as a $200 million film, which then opens the door a little bit more, makes it possible to do shared universe stuff. I just don't think it's big enough at this point to do it. Schnepp, what do you think?
I would see the Continental television series if they did an 8-episode, who's checking into the Continental. Every episode was a different weird, assassin or whatnot.
So almost like Big Little Lies, where it's a self-contained mini-series,
totally.
If you will?
That's what I would see. I don't know if I would be prompted to go see a movie called The Continental, even knowing that it was about that secret place. I mean, John Wick is because you're into the character John Wick. It's not about a place, it's a person. So a shared universe of what? A hotel? I don't really understand. I don't see it. I would like to see a John Wick 3, and if they want to continue John Wick, or something that was more standalone, like a series, like a 1-hour show. You could do a bunch of them.
Perry, what do you think?
You just read my mind. That's exactly what I was going to say. I think the Continental idea is perfect for TV. That's the kind of place where you use the Continental and that insanely intriguing mythology, and you put a whole bunch of hitmen in there. But I think where it's going is John Wick 3, especially with where 2 leaves off. It does pave the way to a really great idea for round 3.
I do think John Wick 3 is where they're going to go next, especially after the events of John Wick 2. But I'm going to go a little bit on a same but a little different with what you guys are saying. I think the Continental could be a movie, and inside of that movie you could set up what you'd have to do is ultimately what they tried to do with Bourne but failed with Jeremy Renner is you set up the Continental and give me a new hitman. Give me someone new inside of that universe. Get him or her really popular, and then you can start to spin off and do shared universes if that connects and does it the right way. It's risky. It's hard to do, and it really would be more about the Continental and the rules and everything else. And the television show certainly would be fun by doing it that way, and you could set it up. But I think that if you wanted to expand into movies, that's the way you would do it.
All right, guys, like I said, we'd save a little bit of time for your live Twitter questions, and we're going to get to that right now. Wendy, what have you picked out?
All right, this first one comes from Christopher Kokora, and who writes, is there any movie based on true events that you think is very disrespectful?
Oh, wow. That's actually, that's really a fascinating question. It's one I'd have to give a little bit of thought to, because I think any movie based on true events, any movie based on a true event, like any story, has to be told from a certain point of view. And maybe it's not the point of view you hold. That doesn't mean that it's being disrespectful. It just means it's looking at it from a different point of view. There are certainly movies I've seen that have addressed issues, I think, in a disrespectful way, but I'm having a hard time pulling into my
John,
mind.
I got
that
one.
stands out.
I know where we're
March
going.
13th, 1997.
Oh, okay.
Phoenix Lights.
Something happened in Phoenix. They call it the Phoenix Lights. I find it incredibly disrespectful. All these found footage, shaky cam movies. Why don't you respect the Phoenix Lights?
I'll tell you the one that I'll go with. I know I can already hear the comments screaming at me for saying this too, because I think it's one of his better movies, but I think it was disrespectful, and that's Pain and Gain. I think Pain and Gain, the events that happened in that movie, they treated it as if it was like a Bad Boys movie, like it wasn't real, and it was disrespecting the memory to the people that were actually murdered, and it was just like they were treated as if it was like some bad comedy the way that he shot it. And yes, was it one of his better films as compared to the Transformers? Absolutely. But if you really look into what those families endured, it was extremely insensitive.
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but you just make me think of something like Wolf of Wall Street, where we're kind of glorifying to a point what Leonardo DiCaprio is going
I think
through.
it was more of a satire to show
No,
how horrible he
Well,
was.
no, it definitely was. I don't think it put him in a good light in the end. It's just, the movie doesn't really go into all those people who completely lost everything that they had because of the operation that he did. But then, I'm just bringing that up because your reference made me think of Wolf of Wall Street. I can't think of one off the top of my head that truly is disrespectful.
Phoenix Lights.
There you go. That's the one. But, in general, I'm always thinking about when it's too soon. And I think we answered that on Mailbag recently. And the one thing that surprised me in a good way was how Patriots Day did it, because I was sure that movie was going to be too soon and it was going to hurt in the wrong way. It turned out to be, even though it was so soon after a really tragic event.
Great call.
And I can only speak for me personally, because obviously there are so many people who were directly affected by that event. But I thought it was kind of what I needed to, accept what happens, moved on, and really honor the people who went through that and made all the difference in that situation.
All right, what's next?
This one comes from M. Aguilar32, who writes, "Love all your shows. After attending the Marvel Open House, what MCU movie are you most excited for after Infinity War?"
Well, I'll tell you what, seeing what we saw at Black Panther really got me excited.
Can you guys, because I didn't go on this thing, but can you guys talk about what you saw, or is it embargoed?
No, we can.
No, we can talk. I feel like I don't want to give too much away in case there's stuff that people don't want to see, but I'm sure the stuff we saw will eventually be in trailers. We got to see more of the world of Wakanda.
Yeah.
And
Heavy emphasis on Wakanda.
Heavy,
Yeah.
and here's the thing. Actually, you and I were talking in the hallways of Marvel there. One of the things I turned to Kristian, I said, the way they're treating Wakanda really is almost like it's the lost city of Atlantis. It felt like an alien world with a lot of traditional, like African motifs at the same time. It's set in a futuristic world, and the way they are painting Wakanda as this technologically far superior nation while living a very isolated, hold on to a lot of old traditions. I got to tell you, I became, just the little stuff that we saw, I became fascinated to see that world.
I think there's some stuff in Black Panther for sure. That was the stuff that stood out the most because that's the most we saw as far as footage-wise went. But I think actually seeing Andy Serkis once again as Claw, there was they showed us a little scene with him. I thought he was great.
And he looked great.
He looked great. But I also think seeing Forrest Whitaker, which I hadn't really seen or heard of at all, that he was going to be in it. There was a really cool scene to see when Chadwick Boseman came out and is kind of accepting.
It's the coronation.
The coronation, yeah, and that was really cool. But I think the thing that, besides that stuff, because I'm sure that's what everybody's going to rave about, a lot of the footage, the stills from artwork from Ant-Man and the Wasp
Was great.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff they show with that suit. There's one particular shot that I saw where he's giant Ant-Man and he's using himself as a bridge, and people are kind of running over him. There's a lot of really cool things.
It was fun because in that artist's office, there's like 9 of us walk into this artist's office where they're displaying all this concept art, and we're looking at it, and we don't even realize, oh yeah, standing right behind me is Peyton Reed.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
Peyton's here, and they're talking about it. Yeah, there's some really cool
It really
stuff.
was a nice surprise seeing him and Taika there.
Yeah.
Because I did not expect that at all. But another cool image from the Ant-Man and the Wasp stuff was Ant-Man was holding a giant soda bottle and he was like spraying people down
yeah.
with it. I thought that was really cool. It's also just cool to see dailies. You know, we always see featurettes and final films and stuff that's finished. It's really nice to see something that was just shot. And I was looking at some of the dates on it, and it's so recent. It's an exciting thing to get to experience that. But Black Panther is probably my most anticipated at this point, but Thor Ragnarok, Taika Waititi was there, and as a big fan of What We Do in the Shadows, and Hunt for the Wilder People, I was just freaking over the moon to see him standing in the corner of that room. And what he showed us, I really like what we saw.
He's in the movie. Taika is in the movie playing a pretty
Korg.
significant character.
We're allowed to say that.
I guess so. Yeah,
Yeah,
they showed it to us.
they
Yep.
showed it to us. He
so
plays
if you're
a character
familiar
named
with World
Korg.
War Hulk, you're familiar with this, and Planet Hulk, you're familiar with this character, but the way this character is portrayed and the way Taika plays it
And his
was
explanation of
unexpected.
why was really
Yes.
cool too.
And the way that they showed him to us was really neat also, because we got to see every stage of it. We saw him on set in his mocap suit with the Korg head on top, and then we got to see, you know, not finished VFX,
the
but what
animatic
happens
at
when,
any rate,
when
yeah.
they layer it over. And we saw him with Meek as well, with the sword hands. I just really like the interaction between those three characters and just how they set that scene.
Yeah, so they showed us a lot of great stuff that I'm sure will become public probably in the near future. All right, what's next?
This one comes from Ethan Canistra, who writes, how do studios decide when to lift an embargo?
Look, studios have very specific strategies for their marketing campaign. First of all, it starts with, do they think their movie is good or not? And how good or not is it? When it's really good, like for instance, you'll see like Disney has taken the strategy before of, we're going to show this movie to critics like a month in advance, no embargo, get that word of mouth going. And then sometimes we see movies that we're going to have the press screening for this 18 hours before the movie opens, and we're holding the embargo until the moment the movie opens. So a lot of the strategy has to do with how confident are they in their film. But then there's other elements as well. What other films are opening? When do we want to take advantage of lulls and crests in momentum pushes for different movies as well? So they have this whole strategy. Starts with how good or bad the movie is, then the other factors come into play. Generally speaking, the earlier the embargo list is usually an indication that the studio is more confident in the film. When it gets up to within 24 hours of a movie opening, that's usually an indication they're not so thrilled about their own film. How would you add to that?
No, I mean, I think that it's just a matter of how you can't really put your finger on it, because it's like you said, if there's first of all, if the movie's going to stink, they know it, and depending, January movies is usually you'll get those like you're talking about, 24-hour embargoes. But I think that a lot of times, like I think Marvel's absolutely one that does this often. When they know a movie is really good, or they're confident in a movie, or they want to get the buzz out early, you get those, I guess, a month before. I think Civil War was something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the question also tends to be, I know fans have asked this too, and it's a good question, is when is it too soon to show a movie? And, you know, maybe you should hold a little bit of an embargo. So I don't really think there's any rhyme or reason as far as I know, but I think that they certainly have their methods. I just don't know what it is.
I don't think there's a reason that pertains to everybody across the board. There isn't some
no.
formula that everyone has
It's
to
art
abide
and
by.
science.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But holding it is also kind of a double-edged sword, because I think everybody out there is starting to really become knowledgeable about what happens when a movie holds reviews until a certain point, and then they wind up figuring out early on that it sucks anyway. So it's kind of a lose. Well, it is a lose-lose if your movie sucks. There's really no hiding it. And people will probably not buy tickets. But it's also an interesting thing when you throw in festivals. I'm looking at Free Fire right behind you, and it's like, when do you decide to screen Free Fire? Is it at festivals to build buzz and then continue after its world premiere to continue to build buzz? Or do you, show it, get everyone talking and sell the thing, and then just wait until closer to the release? So I think it's different for everybody. Every movie is in a different situation.
I think if you have a garbage film, don't show it to anybody and just release it that day. Do as much hype as possible and get that money, because that's what you're just doing, a money grab. If you already know your movie sucks and you're not letting critics review it, then you're hyper aware that you're just doing a money grab and ripping the audience off. So I think that if any movie is coming out and is not allowing critics that you've heard of, or at least like 5 people who've reviewed movies for a long time, to a chance to review it, then they're hiding something. They're afraid of their film. They can't stand behind it, and you don't give them your money. It's real simple.
The other thing, too, is I've had people write to me before and say, hey, John, like the embargo for this particular movie isn't opening until 3 days before the movie opens. I actually have no problem with that. Like, when you get 3, 4, 5 days or more away, I don't think there's any problem with that, because sometimes the strategy there is we want to let the reviews drop so people can buy tickets right now.
Or spoilers.
Yeah, because sometimes they're a little bit afraid of lifting the review embargo if it's a movie they think is good a little too early, and then it's out of sight, out of mind. Like, they forget. So you let the reviews drop 3 or 4 days in advance, and it opens this Friday. You know, so I'm never worried about review embargoes that lift 3 or 4 days. It's when you get to within 48 hours of the movie actually opening, that's when I get a little bit nervous. All right, we got time for one more question. What's up?
All right, this one comes from Torino Johnson, who writes, after researching, I think that Snoke is Darth Malgus. Physical scars, height, Vader's study time of him, and etc. Your percentage?
I don't think the timing of that line. No, Malgus at this point is not canon, so they can do whatever they want with him. I think 0%.
I would say 0%. I think because of what you just said. I mean, yeah, they can do whatever they want, but he's not canon, so it doesn't matter if it matches up at all. But it wouldn't matter as far as age-wise goes anyway, because from what we're saying, that Snoke is older. I'm off of Snoke being anyone connected to anyone that you know, whether it's Plagueis or Sifo Dyas, any of that. From reading Empire's End, I am pretty sure he is just an outside being that was discovered by Palpatine years and years ago.
I will echo everything you just said, thanks to Empire's End, but if I want to learn more about this character, where do I read about him?
You would read him. Actually, there's an Old Republic novel that I think Paul S. Kemp wrote.
Oh.
I actually have
I
it,
do
so you can
like
borrow it.
Paul S. Kemp's work.
Yeah.
So.
I was going to add a 97% Snoke is Darth Chimpy. Look it up.
Darth Chimpy, very important character related to Bespin. Okay, guys, that'll do it for us for this installment of Movie Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank the people sitting at the table with me. First of all, over there, Mr. Jon Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, just at Jon Schnepp, and later today at 1 p.m., not a.m.
Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah, Heroes, so check it out.
Right beside me, Perri Nemiroff.
Twitter and Instagram at PNemiroff. Also keep an eye out for Collider Behind the Scenes this Saturday. If you liked our Star Wars Celebration coverage, it's a whole episode all on that. It's a lot of fun. You're going to want to check it out.
Mr. Kristian Harloff.
Twitter and Instagram at Kristian Harloff, but so much Schmodown goodness coming your way. Obviously, we have the Wolves of Steel versus ETC. That's happening today. And then Friday, the big title match between Mark Yodi Riley and the Outlaw, John Roca. Check it out.
Over there, we got Ashley Mova.
Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Ashley Mova. Happy Tuesday, guys.
And Wendy Lee.
The Movie Couple channel on YouTube, and at Wendy Lee Zaney on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat.
And you guys can simply follow me on social media on Facebook and on Twitter, just at John Campea. That'll do it for us, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, bye-bye.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.